Let me unmute you. Let me unmute you. Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hello from Kiev.
Привет.
Привет.
Как
Awesome.
дела?
Хорошо. I didn't know that you know Russian.
Well, I learned it. I learned it last time when I was there in Ukraine. I was, learning the basic things. So learned a little bit of. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Give me few moments to add everybody in, and then we'll
Of
start.
course.
Give me
Yeah.
10 minutes. So we have got a person from Egypt. His name is Ahmed. Ahmed, say hi to her.
Hi, Ahmed.
Okay, let me unmute.
Hello.
And you will be surprised. You will see someone else as well. You know him. Sig, you are here?
Oh, hello. Happy to see you. I don't hear you. Probably he's muted.
No,
Let me
Yeah.
unmute him.
no, I literally delayed a meeting for you guys to be on a webinar.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much.
Yeah.
It's so nice of you.
How are you?
So it happens when you have, the superwoman from the gaming industry. It actually happens.
Oh,
People delay their meeting and all.
this is so cute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are on time. There are a couple of people. I'm closing the waiting room at the moment. Okay, so here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome my amazing friend, the real superwoman from the gaming industry, Elena Levova, the founder and CEO of Achievers Hub, the ex-CEO of iLogos, and who is doing amazing work in the gaming ecosystem. Did multiple number of speaking in GDC, in Games Gathering. She actually created the whole thriving ecosystem in multiple number of European countries as well as in Asia, did amazing works in China, super amazing community builder, and a super lady. And yes, I missed the part. She's a great friend of mine. And she's a great
Oh,
friend of everyone. So over to you, Elena. So we have an interesting topic. So I can see a lot of indie developers, they joined, and I can see two people who are actually game development producer. So we are willing to understand how to publish a game and how to find a investor for the same. Over to you. I'll keep myself mute and I'll be controlling the whole event for you.
okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for the nice introduction. I'll probably switch to the share screen. Try to share my screen. Um, okay. Okay. Mhm. And can you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I will show you a few slides with some of the extracts of what I will be talking about, and you will be able to access this information after the webinar, so you will get some outputs. My name is Elena, as you already know. I'm a founder of Achievers Hub, and today we will talk about how to find a publisher and how to pitch your game to them. But before it, I will tell you a little bit about myself. Just very briefly, I'm in game development since 2011. So for 9 years or already, we'll be celebrating my 10 years anniversary in the industry next year. 6 out of these 9 years I spent as a COO and then CEO of game development company iLogos. It's an outsourcing company, and we've been working with a number of international publishers like Electronic Arts, Rovio, Spiel Games, and many other cool guys. In parallel, I organized a game development conference, Get IT, in Ukraine from 2012 until 2017. And in the end of 2017, I founded Achievers Hub. Achievers Hub is a platform for independent game developers. We connect them to mentors, investors, publishers, basically help them with the business side of game development and let them concentrate on what they're good at, on creative side, on technical side, and don't think about such things as pitching, negotiations, and all other business development things. Also, we're organizing events. Our latest online event, Global Game Pitch, just happened a few weeks ago, and we gathered more than 100 teams from over 40 countries. They pitched the games to publishers and investors during 2 days, and it went quite well. And now we're preparing our next online event, Going Hyper. It's a hyper casual game jam. It's gonna be online this year too. So if anyone is interested in hyper casual games, you can check it out. Also, I'm consulting some amazing companies on business development, helping them raise funds, helping them get connected to publishers and investors, helping them negotiate, sale, and so on. And yeah, as you can see on the picture of this slide, I have a lot of badges from different conferences. This is one of my favorite things to do, traveling and meeting new people. And I'm happy to be in the industry where you can travel and meet a lot of amazing people around the world. Hopefully the lockdown will be over soon and we'll be able to travel again and meet all these awesome guys. So yeah, at the conferences, I'm mainly looking for publishers and investors for the games we work with. And this is one of the things that we mainly help with at Achievers Hub. So today we will talk about publishers, how to find them, where to find them, and how to pitch to them. But before it, let's discuss why do you need a publisher? Because some developers, they are not sure if they need a publisher or not. Some developers, they self-publish the games and they become successful anyway. Some developers publish games with publishers and they are not that successful. So let's try to figure out if you need a publisher at all. First of all, I'd like to show you a little bit of statistics. It's from the Game Development Industry Survey, State of Games Industry, by GDC, Game Developers Conference that is happening in San Francisco every year, except for this one, of course. And they also do a survey among thousands of developers. Probably it's the biggest game development survey that exists. And according to this survey, over 25% of developers work with publishers. But if you look closely at this survey, we can also notice that the majority of developers that publish the games themselves say that they have an internal marketing team or PR team to publish these games. And of course, if they do have an internal marketing team, it probably makes sense for them to self-publish. But if you don't have the internal marketing team, and if you don't have a capacity, if you don't have money and experience to build an internal marketing and PR team, then it would make sense for you to try to work with a publisher. What publishers can do for you? First of all, it's of course user acquisition. You might build a great, amazing game, but you need to attract users to a game. How to make this game visible to all the people at the App Store, on Google Play, Steam, and so on. There are thousands of products already released and hundreds of games released every day. So you would need someone to help you acquire these users. Publishers already have a user base, so for them it's easier to invite these users to the new games that they publish. Also, they can help you with PR and advertising, and not only online PR. Sometimes it might be even some offline PR, for example, billboards or booths at the trade shows. For example, there is a big trade show in LA, E3, that happens every year. Again, not in this year, but every other year. there is E3 in LA in June, and this is the biggest show where all the major publishers announce their future releases. And it's quite expensive to have a booth there, to travel there for an indie developer. So it always worth it having a publisher who can do it for you. Also, publishers can help you with platform relations. Not always you know how to talk to platforms, for example, to App Store or to Steam, and what you should prepare for release, some visuals, how to go through all these approval processes. If you haven't published a game yet, you probably would face some challenges, and publishers can help you overcome these challenges and will help you make all this preparation to the release more smooth. They can also provide additional services, not only marketing for your game, but also, for example, QA, some testing, localization services, so your game could be translated to different languages and published in different countries and different places around the world. They can also help you with IP licensing. For example, if you have a great game and publisher looks at it and they think it would be a good fit to put some IP, intellectual property, on top of your game. For example, let's say Mickey Mouse franchise, they can talk to IP owners and also negotiate licensing deals and help you make your game even more attractive. Yep. Also, not only localization is needed sometimes to enter the new markets. There is such thing as culturalization. It's not enough just to translate your game to the different languages. It also makes sense to try to understand the culture of different countries. Try to understand players there, what they like, what they want, what kind of games they play, their mentality, their culture. So if you want to enter the market that you don't know about, it always makes sense to enter this market with a local publisher. For example, if you're based, let's say, in India and then you want to enter Russian markets and you don't know anything about Russia, or if you're based in Russia and you want to enter, let's say, Chinese market and you don't know anything about China, it makes sense to always work with a local publisher or a publisher that has a representative office in this country. Publishers has an expertise in the market and in this particular genre. In most cases, publishers are focused on some genre, on some platform, which means that they already know what makes a good game in this genre. They already did some market research. They played a bunch of games, good games, bad games, and they know what makes a game good or bad. So you can use this expertise. You can use their advice in order to make your game potentially more successful. Also, publishers can help you with monetization advice. Sometimes you can build a game, but you're not completely sure how to monetize these games, how to get money out of these games. For example, if you, let's say, have a premium game that you're gonna sell for money, you don't know what would be the good price for this game in order to not make it too expensive so nobody buys it, or too cheap so you don't earn the money that you could earn. So publishers have an expertise in monetization and they can help you build a solid monetization system that would let you get the maximum amount of money out of the game you made. Also, sometimes it happens that a developer already has a prototype or an alpha build or a demo, but they don't have enough money to finish the development. In this case, some publishers, if they really like the game, they can also offer some development funding and help you complete this game. Sometimes this funding comes in the form of kind of an investment that publisher will later recoup. And sometimes it comes in the form of a minimum guarantee, which is some fixed amount of money that you get before the game release. And when the game is released, publishers deduct this amount of money out of your revenue share. But if in an unfortunate case your game doesn't reach the desired success and the game never earns the money, you don't need to give it back. So minimum guarantee is just some minimum amount of money that you will receive and don't have to give back to anyone. Sometimes it's also good to have this level of stability. Yeah, so this is what publishers might offer, and it looks pretty cool, I think. But of course, they also expect something to get from game developers. What it could be. First of all, it's revenue share. So you need to share a slice of your game's revenue. It might be very different, and it heavily depends on the platform, on the genre, on many different things. The standard one probably is 50-50, but it can be very different. It also can vary at different stages of release of the game's life cycle. For example, if publisher had invested some money into the game, they would expect to return their investment or return their minimum guarantee first. And during this time, until they return their money back, developer can get slightly less money, slightly less slice of the revenue share. For example, you agreed that you split the revenue 50-50, but the publisher also invests some money into the game. So until the publisher returned all the money, they get, let's say, 80% and you get 20%. But as soon as all the money are returned to the publisher, you get your 50%. It can be very different. In my experience, developers can get from 20 to 80% of the revenue, and it also depends on the publisher involvement in the game, on how much they invest in terms of money, in terms of expertise, in terms of users, and so on. So it's just up to you and up to publisher to discuss whatever terms work for the both of you. Yeah, it's just very important to fix everything in the contract. Also, it's very important to fix everything IP rights related. IP is an intellectual property. Let's say you're building your own franchise or your own setting, and then you want to make another game based on this one, based on this setting. For example, you want to make a sequel to this game, or a publisher wants to use part of your game to build the new games, let's say, on the other platforms. How would you act in this case? It's worth discussing and fixing in the contract. And of course, the revenue share would also depend on who retains the IP rights. If the developer retains the IP rights, the revenue share can be slightly lower. If the publisher gets an IP rights in addition to the revenue share can be smaller. Also, some publishers would like to influence the product design. And it's not good or bad, it's neutral. It just depends on what you need from a publishers. Some teams, they have a very strict vision of the game, and they just want to keep it. They want to strictly keep to this vision until the very end. In this case, you would be probably better work with a publisher who doesn't include in the product, in the technical process and in the game design that much. But if it's your first game, for example, and you're not sure about many things and you need a lot of advice and guidance, then you would probably better work with a publisher who is involved in the process to a larger extent. Also, there is a thing that publishers might ask for. These things are priority rights for other territories or platforms. For example, if you first published your game at, let's say, in Europe, and now you want to enter, let's say, the American market, you should ask your publisher first if they want to take this game to the American market too, And only if they refuse, then you can pitch that game to the other publishers or self-publish in these new territories. The same with the new platforms. For example, you developed a game for Steam, and then you decided that it would work well on mobile platforms, and you want to build a mobile version. Sometimes publishers ask for the right to reject or accept the offer for a new platform too, if they also operate on these platforms. It's also something to be discussed at the negotiation stage, but in many cases, publishers at least want to get this right of refusal. All in all, sounds quite good for me. And if it's your first game, I would really recommend you to start working with a publisher if you have never published a game before. Of course, there are some situations and there are some success cases when developers release their first game and it becomes successful, and everybody knows these cases. And the reason why everybody knows about these cases is because these cases are very rare. So I wouldn't risk, and probably would go the safe path for the first game, or if it's a new market for you, or if it's a new genre, and if you don't have money for marketing. In all these cases, it's worth trying to find a publisher. Okay, let's imagine that you decided you need a publisher for your game. What should you do next? I created this short questionnaire. It's like a checklist to figure out if you're ready to pitch the game to the publisher yet. And here are a few questions. One is, do you have a clear vision of the game? Do you understand how the game will look like at the end, how the game will look like at the release stage? Do you strongly believe in your game idea? Are you sure that the market needs another match 3 game or fighting game and so on? Do you have a playable demo that shows how the gameplay will feel? Because even if you have a great idea, probably very little, maybe no publisher would commit to a game idea unless you worked with them before for many years. So you need to have at least a playable version, a short demo or a prototype of the game before you pitch. Do you have mock-ups, fake screens, or videos that show how the game will look like when it's released? Everybody understands that at the very early stages, games look quite differently from how they look when they are released, but at least you need to have some examples of how you want your game to look. So the publisher could see that you have a vision of your art style. The publisher should see that you have a capability to make your game looking like that. Also, it's good to show that you're capable of finishing the project at the desired level of quality. Even if you didn't have any games before, maybe you have some examples from your team members' portfolios. It can be some of their works at previous job places, or it can be some of their, let's say, works in university, or maybe something that they did for other clients. Of course, it's not under the NDA. It's all worth keeping in one place and having to show to publisher. Do you know what makes your game special? How is it different from the other games already in the market, especially from your competitors? Do you know how much time you need to finish the game? Is it a month or half a year or 10 years? You need to know it before you go to publishers. And do you know how much money you need to finish the game? It doesn't mean that you should have an exact number. At least an approximate number is fine. It may be some range, but at least you need to know approximately how much money you need. Of course, if you need some money from a publisher. And if your answers to all these questions are yes, then congratulations. You're ready to pitch your game and to find a publisher. Now, the most interesting part, where to find them. Of course, if you talk about the pre-COVID world, one of the main places to find a publisher were offline conferences and events. And hopefully, again, at least next year, we will again have a GDC in San Francisco, Gamescom in Cologne, and many other events all around the world. These are bigger events. There are also some smaller local scaled events. But even before we go back to this normal traveling life, we can still visit online events. For example, Global Game Pitch that I already mentioned that we organize, Indie Game Business organized by Jay Powell in the US. Also, you can search for a publisher in LinkedIn. For example, you can just type in uh, the word publisher in the search line or publishing manager. And you can look for them in social networks. You can join some game development related Facebook groups, Telegram or Discord channels. If you have a local Discord channel or a Telegram chat related to game development, it always makes sense to get connected, to join it, and don't be too shy to say that you're looking for a publisher. If you're a part of some group, if you're part of some community and you're looking for a publisher, don't be too shy just to make a post about your game and say, hey, my name is this and I'm looking for a publisher for this game. Please have a look. And maybe someone can advise a publisher to you, or maybe can help you get connected to them. Also, there are catalogs of game development companies. One of these catalogs is GDBay. You can check it out. You can just search through different categories and select the companies that you're interested in. Also, there are game jams and hackathons. For example, Global Game Jam, it's online, as far as I know, at least in some countries. Going Hyper, our hyper casual game jam is also online, so you can just search for game jams around the world. Many publishers support these game jams. They act as an experts, jury members, and sponsors. So they look through all this project that the teams build, and if they like the project or if they like a team, they get connected to them after the event. Also, there are game development competitions, for example, GTP Indie Cup online or Big Indie Pitch, Nordic Game Discovery Contest. Some of them are online again, some of them are offline, but you can participate. And what is good about competitions is that you not only receive an opportunity to get connected to publishers, but you also receive feedback from jury members, and you can also receive valuable prizes. Also, one more way to find a publisher is enter some of the accelerators or incubators. There are not that many game development related incubators and accelerators, but they exist. And I'm sure that you should check it in your countries, and probably you will find something. But even if you don't find anything in your countries, you can check the other countries too. Some of them accept international participants. For example, Stugan in Sweden. This is a place where they have some cabins in the wood, and the game developers get locked in these cabins for, if I'm not mistaken, 2 months, and they work on their game. Publishers come to these places, they mentor the teams, and they also look for talented developers, and they also look for brilliant games. But if you don't want to pitch the games yourself, for example, you understand that this is not something you like and this is not a skill that you want to develop, you can also ask professional business development consultants to do it for you, or do it with the help of matchmaking platforms like Achievers Hub, for example. So this is also one of the ways you can do it. But if you decided that you want to publish your game or want to pitch your game yourself, here are a few tips that you can use while preparing to the pitch. Before the meeting, try to get to know as much as you can about the market, about the genre, about the competitors. Play all the games in this genre that you can, not only good games, but also bad games. So you could realize what makes a good game and what makes a bad game in the genre. Try to figure out what is your target audience, and make sure that your target audience is not too narrow. You don't want to be just a few people. You want to have quite wide target audience. At least make sure that it exists. Try to get to know as much as you can about the publisher you're going to pitch your game to. What is their audience? What is their portfolio? What are their success cases? So you could prove to them how your game would fit their portfolio. Try to get to know as much as you can about the person that you're pitching the game to. It can be a publishing manager, it can be a producer, it can be an assistant or a company CEO. And depending on that, of course, you can tweak your pitch a little bit to make it more interesting to this person. Because the decision about would your game go through to the next stage or not is on this person, and it depends on their first opinion about you. Try to predict and prepare for the publisher's questions in advance. If you have friends who already pitched their games to the publisher, ask them what kind of question they might ask, or try to figure out yourself. For example, it can be such questions as how are you going to retain users? How are you going to engage users? Or what makes your game different from this or that competitor? Just try to figure this out and prepare in advance. But as soon as you are at the meeting, if you have a verbal pitching, so you have an offline meeting, what can you do to make it more efficient? First of all, try to make it short. It's best if you can describe your game in 1 minute. And if you can't, if it takes longer, just write down your pitch and cross out every word that is not necessary to understand what this game is about. Try to make it clear. How to realize, is it clear or not? Pitch it to some people outside of your team. For example, your parents or your kids or your brothers, sisters, somebody ideally not even from game development. Just, sorry?
I'm agreeing.
Yeah, just pitch them a game and ask them what did they understand. If they understand quite a lot, the closer their description is to the actual game, the better for you. Keep your pitch focused. Don't try to tell everything at once. It's understandable that the game is your brainchild and you really care about it and you want to tell everything, but don't try to overload the publisher with the information at the very beginning. Just tell them about, oh, sorry. No, something happened. Yeah. Just tell them about like some main things about the game. Don't tell about the personal stories of the main characters at the very beginning. Show them something. It's not enough just to tell. You need to have a gameplay video or a short build or a vertical slice, but make sure to show the best part of the game. It shouldn't be a 10 minutes long tutorial. It should be something that shows the game from the best possible angle. Be confident and passionate about the game. Of course, publishers prefer to work with developers who really believe in their projects and who really care about the projects. In this case, it's much more possible that they would build a good game at the end. Let publishers ask their questions. If for example, your meeting is 15 minutes long, then you should plan a pitching part for 10 minutes and leave 5 minutes for questions. If your meeting is, let's say, 30 minutes long, then you should leave at least 10 minutes for questions. And ask your questions too. This is your chance to get to know about the publisher. For example, if you get several offers from the publisher, how would you choose between them? Remember that it's not only publisher who have to choose. You also have to choose the best offer in a good case. Try to be memorable. How can you be memorable? For example, with some merchandise, with some bright orange hats, for example, or a lanyard, or you can have a creative and memorable business card or a memorable booth. You can use any tool that you can. Be as creative as you can in order to let publisher remember you after your meeting. And always follow up, ideally from 1 to 5 days after the meeting. If you follow up later than 5 days, there is a possibility, unfortunately, that publisher can not remember you or just don't find your email in hundreds of other emails that they receive every day. If you pitch in writing, for example, you found some base of emails of publishers, or you just collected these emails from LinkedIn or from the conference base and so on. Try to send individual emails, and if you know the person you're talking to, call them by the name. If you don't know the person, you can just say, "Dear something team." But if you decide to send the newsletter to many publishers at once, at least make sure to put them in the hidden copy. Use BCC. Don't let them see that you're just sending to thousands of other publishers too. Just as with verbal pitching, make your pitch short and clear. Don't write the walls of text, because in this case, the possibility of this email to never be read is very high. Mention what you're looking for. Mention if you're looking for funding. And if you are looking for funding, include the budget. Add visuals. It can be a screenshot, it can be a video of gameplay. Just remember to show the best part of the game. And make a nice pitch deck, because the quality of pitch decks also tells a lot about the development team. Send them a link to the build or a link to the vertical slice. Add a gameplay video, but aim to interest the viewer in the first 10 seconds. It might take a lot of time to say no, to say yes to a game, but it usually takes just a few seconds to say no. So make sure that the first impression about your game is good. Make sure all the links work and none of them has expired. Make sure your text is grammatically correct and consistent. If you're not sure about your text, you can show it to the native speaker, for example, if you're pitching in your not native language. Be honest, don't exaggerate, and don't use such words as the best game, the one of a kind, only one game in this place. There are always competitors. So try to be honest, try to be humble, and it's better to let the game speak for itself. And of course, be polite. This is the example of the ideal text. By the way, I noticed that we have less than 1 minute.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, what should we do then?
Well,
I still have a few slides left. Yeah.
How many slides you have?
Like 3 or 4.
Oh my God. Shall I create another Zoom and send you the link and send others?
And that would be awesome.
Okay, let me do this. You continue, and I'll create another Zoom meeting and send it back to you. You can join again. Okay, you can continue.
Okay.
This. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'll share it to everyone.
Yeah, here is the example of the ideal email. You introduce yourself, you introduce your company, and you introduce your game. You mention the platform, the monetization model, the setting, and what you're looking for. Everything in one sentence. It's just perfect. Then you send the link to the presentation with more details, gameplay video, and the latest APK or other type of build. And yeah, basically in just a few sentences, in just a couple of paragraphs, you cover all the things that publishers need to know about your game at the first place. Example of perfect email from a developer to a publisher. But of course, it shouldn't be just this way. It can be different. This is just something to look at. Let's talk about pitch deck now. Of course, I mentioned that you should include a pitch deck or representation about the game, but it's quite a huge topic, and it wears a separate presentation. So here I will give you a little bit of advice, just some basic advice. First of all, try to make it not too long, not longer than 10-15 slides long. For example, I received once a pitch deck of 62 pages. And of course, my first advice to this developer was to reduce the number of slides. If you have such a long presentation, it's very possible that a publisher will never have time to check it out. At least the first one shouldn't be longer than 10-15 slides. Don't use too many fonts and colors because it can be irritating for the publisher. If you have a corporate style or a corporate color palette, you can use it in the presentation. It always makes you look professional. Avoid walls of text. It's always better to replace text with graphics, charts, and numbers. Bullet points are better than walls of text, and where possible, use some graphics. Here are a few examples at the bottom of the slides of the graphics in the presentation. One is the roadmap of the project, and the other one is a funny way to represent your team. By the way, it's always worth to add one or two slides about your team and to tell about where you're based, how many people do you have, what is your previous experience. You can put pictures of your team members. It makes it feel more personal. And what to do then? You had a meeting or you sent a pitch, or for example, you had a meeting, then you followed up and you sent your presentation in 1-2 days. What should you do then? Just wait? Of course not. For example, if you don't hear back from a publisher for quite a long time, don't be too shy to remind about yourself. As I said, publishers are very busy people and they receive hundreds and sometimes thousands of emails every day. So if you don't hear back in a week, it's worth reminding about yourself. What I do, I remind in a week, then in 1 more week, and then if I don't hear anything, in a month. But not to look annoying, I would recommend you in a month and later not only remind about yourself and ask for feedback, but also send something useful. For example, an update of the build or some news about your game. So it looks not like you're trying to just be annoying or just remind about yourself, but it looks like you're sharing some useful information, sharing your update with the publisher. Even if your game was rejected, always ask for feedback. Ask for something that would help you improve in the future and help you understand why this game was rejected. Maybe it was something wrong with your pitch and your representation of information. Maybe it's just the wrong publisher, or maybe you need to change something in the game in order to make it look more appealing to publishers. And if you receive, when you receive a feedback, thank for it. Publishers really appreciate it. And don't try to argue, don't try to, even if you're not agree with this feedback, don't be rude in any case. Just be friendly and polite and keep in touch with this person. It's possible that you would be in touch again, for example, when you want to pitch your new game to this publisher. And the game development industry is quite small, so this person can change a job and you would want to talk to this person later in a new position. So always keep in touch. Add this person to your LinkedIn contacts or wherever you use, maybe a small CRM system. Yeah, it's very good to have a friendly relationship with everyone in such a small industry. And of course, use the feedback that you got to improve. Train your pitching skills, pitch to as many publishers as you can, because the more you pitch, the better your skills are, and the better your skills are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more chances you have to get your game signed by a publisher. I wish you luck with pitching your games, and thank you for your attention. You can see some of my contact information and company's contacts at the slide. So please feel free to add me. Please feel free to join the Game Achievers Hub group on Facebook. And if you have any questions, you can ask them now or email me after the event. Thank you.
Spasibo, Elena. Thank you so much for the lovely presentation. And it's open for question and answer for the audience. I got few of the questions in my personal chat. So I'll be asking you on behalf of them, if it is okay. Otherwise, if I open
Yeah,
the
of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Sure.
So Indira Kaur, she is asking that how much marketing support we can get from the publishers. She is an indie developer. She is one of my student. She is learning from my institution. She's here in the room itself. So she did few of the casual games. So just a simple answer would be great if you can help her about what are the kind of marketing support usually publishers give.
Can you please tell again which platform is it? Is she the
It is basically mainly for the mobile platform, as per my
mobile?
yeah.
Okay, so well, again, it depends on the publisher, and it depends on the publisher's capabilities. But some publishers can invest hundreds of thousands of USD in the game marketing. Some publishers can invest less, and basically, not all the games need that amount of money. Sometimes publishers, they mainly attract users organically, so they don't invest that much money in the game, but they can help this game to be visible through the channels that they have. For example, if they have some platforms, if they have websites, and they have some places for banners there, they can also use an advertisement inside their own games. For example, if this publisher already has tens of similar games, they can include the advertisement of your game in these games, and it would be enough to get you thousands, tens of thousands, and sometimes hundreds of thousands or even millions
Power চলে গেল?
right feet. Okay. Hello, ORG is back.
There's a
Hello.
massive power failure that happened, and the whole network, my home network is down. I was using my Wi-Fi. I'm really sorry.
No, don't worry. I'm already answering the questions in the chat, so it's fine.
Okay, great. Yeah.
The next question was how to find the right kind of publisher and how to decide the right fit. Okay, so first of all, it's always better to work with a publisher who has similar games in the portfolio. If they already worked with this type of game, it means that it's much more likely that could help your game to succeed too. Second is, of course, what kind of terms they provide. And it's only up to you to decide whether these terms work for you or not. And one more thing, which is not less important than the other two, is your personal connection. Do you like these people? Do you trust these people? Do you want to keep in touch with these people and probably make your next game and maybe many more other games with them? So it's the games in the portfolio, terms, and your values, how similar your values are.
Super.
Okay, do you have any more questions for me? I already asked. Okay, thank you. You too. Thank you for your cool questions. Thank you for your attention. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine, Elena, but somehow here the nature is playing a super game with me. It first turn off the whole power for the whole society. Now there is a heavy rain that's happening and there is a power cut. And
it's raining in Kiev too,
it's
but not
because
too heavy.
it's happening because last time I missed to go to Kiev, and Kiev people are actually really angry about the same. That's the reason nature is actually taking the revenge. Okay, I hope people have asked their question, and we're in for making your own indie games. And probably Ahmed, I'm not sure whether you have asked the question or not. So Ahmed is basically a cool guy. He already sent me a question earlier. I'm not sure whether he asked it or not. So from his behalf, I'll be asking. So he is basically a programmer from Egypt and doing some cool stuff and looking for artists who can co-develop a few bit of gaming with him. And his genre is mainly the casual genre. So what kind of partners he can get, and if Achievers Hub can help to get a co-founder, to find a co-founder for him or not, and what are the process, if you can address the same.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we're not the right kind of company who can help you get a co-founder, but we can help you get connected to publishers and investors for your game. We need to have to see at least a first playable version of the game. If you already have a first playable, there is game submission form at the website. You read the terms we work with developers on, you check out the subscription packages that we have, and you check the one that works best for you. Then there is a submission form, and you fill in all the information about your game. We will evaluate this together with mentors. We'll provide you feedback, and yeah, and at least with Achievers Hub, we can help you find a publisher or investor, and maybe distribution partners and some other kind of partners. We cannot just help you find a co-founder, because we have teams. We don't work with individuals. We usually work with teams. Even if the team is consists of one person, it's still a team. But I really hope that you'll be able to find a co-founder. And I know how important it is. When I started Achievers Hub, it was just me, and it was quite tough. And I found a co-founder when Achievers Hub was already 1.5 years old. And I'm just super blessed to have this person now. And it's just so much easier to have someone else who can share the burden with you.
True. Whenever you do your entrepreneurial journey, it's actually important to have someone on board. So we have another question. Which market do you think
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
for
see.
mobile games? Europe, China, US, India, Asian?
Yeah. Well, again, it's not about the platform this much. It's mainly about the genre, because in some markets they prefer some types of games. uh, as far as I know, Asian games and the US Asian games market and the US market are the biggest at the moment. So at least these are the markets where you can find more users. But it also heavily depends on what kind of game you're building. And there are surveys about this in the internet. There are such websites as Superdata and some other surveys where they put some graphics about the genres and how popular the genres are in different countries. So I advise you to check out these places, and to maybe Sensor Tower as well. They also do research, and maybe you will realize that the game you're building would work best for European market, or for Chinese market, or for the US market, or for any other market.
Super. Thank you, audience, for the lovely questions, and thank you, Elena, for her time. And I apologize; it never ever happens. At least for so many webinars I hosted so far. Really sorry, Elena. I was actually looking for this webinar for, I think, quite a long time, but somehow we got a power cut, and I apologize for the same. I'm doing it again and again because
Don't worry about it.
because actually you are my very
Don't
good friend, and I really treat you as a Wonder Woman. Anyway, so I have a small question to you. When you look at the market at the moment, we all know that there are cultural differences for countries. For an example,
Mhm.
if you want to build a character-based game, and if you want to build, say, for an example, a Asian game like for the Chinese market. Their taste and preference are different. And when you talk about making a game for the US market, their taste and preference are usually different. So
Yeah.
how you suggest people to create a common character base, common characterization, which can appeal people, which can appeal the gamers and the users, which can retain them, and it can be a global game instead of only localization. What is your suggestion?
Yeah, I think that it would make sense to have people on board from these countries you're building your game for. For example, if you have a, like if you have an opportunity to hire some local developers, for example, it's great. If you can not hire a person but you can take them as an advisor, it's also great. Someone you can ask, some insiders that you can show the game and ask their opinion for. Of course, there are special companies that specialize at this kind of things and in helping you make the games look better and look good for some particular audiences. But even if you don't have money to work with these companies, but you have friends in other countries, it would go. You can just ask them, you can ask for their friendly feedback, and yeah, this is how you can make your game looks appealing for different kind of audiences.
Super, super. I have another last question to you. That is my most probably everybody wants to understand. Globally, there is a concept that, at least in my country, people feel that game development is basically child's play, and we sometimes feel that making a game, it's basically for those students who are listening. It is basically for for the people who don't have any work in their life, and they're making the game and they're publishing it to the Play Store, and kids are actually playing those games. I want actually your honest opinion about this kind of statement. Do you feel making games is
uh,
child's play?
I actually think that to be honest, in my country, there is also such opinion of many people think that games is not a serious business. But first, if we look at the world market of the games, we can see that this market is even bigger than the like film industry, which is not considered to be unserious.
Right.
As far as I know, games industry earned 140 billion last year, and it's more than the film industry. And also, if we look at different kinds of game, we can find the games that actually help people. Some games just they just entertain people, but some people can help them. They can help them release stress. They can help kids, for example, to educate, to develop their motor functions and so on. And even for people who are not like adult people, games play a very important part. Now during the lockdown, many people are depressed, or they are like they lack some interaction with the other people. So for some of them, games is the only way they can interact with others. This is the only way they can relieve their stress and reduce the level of depression. If you talk to any psychologist, they would say that uh, games in general as a concept is important for people of all ages. So it's a serious thing and it's a valuable thing to do.
True. And sorry asking you a lot of questions, but I want your answer because I've been doing it in India rigorously, telling people how important it is and how deep knowledge we need to have to make any such kind of game which improvises IQ level of people. It's not only kids, it's for the elderly people as well who are aged. So your comments on the AI part of the game, say for an example, the kind of level that we game developers use as a AI, the kind of complexity that we use. Basically, game technology, I'm not talking about only game technology can be used in multiple different segments. For an example, automobile, healthcare, fashion industry, everyone is actually nowadays adopting gaming technology. So your thoughts on the same, if you can give some amount of light, and why investors are actually looking for investing in such kind of companies who are developing gaming technologies and using them into the industries.
Okay, so this is also an interesting question. For example, I know that there is a company in Ukraine, in Odessa. They are building VR games and VR simulators for sailors. So before sailors go to the sea for the first time, they can simulate this kind of experience. So if you do something in a simulation first, it reduces the number of errors that you do when you are already doing this in real life. Yes, I know that some countries also use the technology, gaming technology, to train even soldiers and train some police officers and so on.
Right.
It's always better when someone tried something under less pressure and develop some skills when they cannot hurt real people, and then when the skill is already developed, they can use it in real life. So yeah, so I don't know if it answers your question, but my opinion that this is this kind of games application of the games to the our like world, it has a big future, and it should be considered by investors and even by governments.
Certainly, yes. And yeah, I know for a fact a couple of investors are actually looking to invest such kind of companies. I actually did one such deal in Australia, although they are not a gaming company, but they are actually a gamification company, I would say. You know, they are using gamification and using gaming technology to solve a couple of business aspects of it. And super happy for, you know, getting all the answer. Sorry for all the hazards that I did. Really sorry. It
No worries.
never ever happens. It never happens. I don't know why today it's happening. Like there's a
I
storm.
will just think that I'm special.
Do you remember the first time we met and I actually dropped that food? I think it was a burger in the trash can instead of the trash.
I don't remember, but yeah.
Taiwan. Anyway, I still remember that incident. Anyway, something happens when you usually, you know, do and ask something from the nature, and then he says that okay, fine, I'll be blessing you back. So I got my power back now, and I'm blessed to,
Yay.
yeah, I'm blessed to have you with me, and thank you so much. And I know that how exhausted you are. For the audience, Elena is already there with us in entrepreneur space. So she is so Elena is a mentor over there in entrepreneur space, although she is actually super busy, but always try to help the community. She is there in Anim Gaming as well as a judge. So we help the indie developers from India to at least publish their game, get some amount of support, marketing monies and all. And she is always there for helping other communities, and really super amazing lady. Thank you so much, Elena, for your time, for your
Thank
knowledge, and
you
for
for
your
having
sharing.
me.
So I'll try to put it in the other social media. Already I was doing a couple of tweets and all, and hope to have you here in India in one of our program if time permits, if everything goes fine. We'll have
I
you.
hope.
Yes, we'll have you over.
Yeah, I just had a talk with my friend from the US in the morning, and we were talking about travel. So I just counted the countries I've been to, and there are 35 countries, but India is not there yet. So I'd really love to come.
Oh yes, you have to come now. You have to come. It is not there in your list. And I'll invite you in Australia as well. I'm building a community over there, so certainly that should be there in your
Wow.
that should be there in
Okay,
your
it's
list.
not on my list yet too. Yeah, should be.
Thank you, Siggy, for your time and support. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank
Bye.
you, Indira. Paka paka.
Paka paka. Bye bye.
Bye bye.